ईशाद्याश्रमनसः सर्वार्थानामुपक्रमे यन्नत्वा कृतकृत्याः स्युतं नमामि गजाननम् पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितं भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितं पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्ददामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणीम् नमोऽस्तुते व्यासविशालबुद्धे पुल्लारविन्दायतपत्रनेत्र येन त्वया भारततैलपूर्णः प्रज्वालितो ज्ञानमयप्रदीपः सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम् योगिनं विश्वनाथाख्यम् अस्मत्तातस्वरूपिणम् आत्मलाभात् परं लाभं वक्तारं न कदाचन गीतार्थग्रन्थकर्तारं श्रीगुरुं प्रणमाम्यहम् योऽन्तः प्रविश्य मे वाचं धृतिं बुद्धिं प्रचोदयात् ॐ नमः सभाभ्यः सभापतिभ्यश्च वो नमः ॐ Friends, we are going to be doing Gita Regimen for Advaitic Living, number 34, Shlokas 6:16, 6th chapter, 16 to 23. Natyasnatastu yogosti नतैकान्तमनश्नतः न चातिस्वप्नशीलस्य जाग्रतो नैव चार्जुन. This shloka and the next. युक्ताहारविकारस्य युक्तचेष्टस्य कर्मसु युक्तस्वप्नावबोधस्य योगो भवति दुःखः. These two shlokas are just very simple shlokas which says yoga is available only for such people. What are the people? It is not available, it will not be successful for a person who eats too much. Atyasnataha, ashana is eating. Atyasnataha, one who eats too much. Ekantam ashnataha, one who does not eat at all. Nachati swapnashilasya, atiswapnashilasya, one who habitually sleeps too long. Jagrataho naiva, one who keeps awake, jagrataha. For all these people, yoga will not be there. Yoga will not be successful. One will not succeed in yoga. Natyasnataha, in fact, there is a standard saying, it comes from probably Shatavata Brahmana, that one should eat only half the stomach, fill up only half the stomach, third quarter, another 1/4, leave it for water, another 1/4 leave empty, fourth quarter for the movement of air. These are very standard requirements. We can understand it, but yoga will not be available. Yoga will not be successful. You cannot expect to be ascending in the yoga ladder if you eat too much, if you sleep too much, if you never eat at all, if you never sleep at all. You have to be moderate. This moderation is recommended in number 17. Yukta ahara viharasya, yukta ahara viharasya. Ahara is eating, vihara is play, walk, whatever. Ahriyate iti aharaha. What is taken in is ahara, food. Vihara is play, movement or talk. In fact, there is a standard saying, sarvatra ativarjayet. Ativarjayet. Anything in excess should be abandoned. Everything should be in moderation. So, whether it is taking food or whether it is playing or movement or walking, one who is in proper measure eats and plays. One who puts in effort in his works in a moderate way. Application to works in due measure. One who sleeps and keeps awake in moderate measure, for him yogo bhavati dukkhaha. Dukkha, by the painkiller like of thing. It will relieve you from all pains, all grief, all unhappiness. Yoga for such people who is moderate in everything. So these two slokas are very simple. I go to the next sloka, from which four slokas, 18, 19, 20 and 21 are gems, very great gems in the whole of the Gita. Profound slokas, of course about meditation. Let us read them carefully. 18. Yada viniyatam chittam atmanyevavatisthate nisprihas sarvakapebhyah yukta ityuchyate tada. Yada viniyatam chittam atmani eva avatisthate nisprihah sarvakamebhyah yukta iti uchyate tada. The four slokas starting from this, I told you, are gems, and the 6 slokas starting from this speak the profound glory of dhyana. I mean, they constitute a profound encomium for dhyana. Viniyatam chittam, chitta is mind. Viniyatam chittam, fully controlled. Viniyatam, niyatam is controlled, fully controlled. Viniyatam, viniyatam chittam, well controlled mind. Atmani eva avatishtate. Atmani eva, in the self alone. Only in the self. Avatishtate, it stands, it abides, it is anchored, abides solely in the self. Nisprihas sarvakamebhyah, sarvakamebhyah, from all desires. Nisprihah, there is no craving, rid of all cravings from objects of desires. Then such a person, yada, when the mind is fully controlled, when it abides in the self alone, atmani eva avatisthate, nisprihas sarvakamebhyah, totally rid of, devoid of all cravings from any desirable objects. Such a person, yukta ityuchyate tada, that is called yuktaha, integrated in yoga. We are going to explain yuktaha further in the next few slokas, but yuktaha, integrated in yoga, unionized in yoga, yuktaha. Already we had one definition, the same thing, yukta ityuchyate tada, we have got it earlier, 6th or 7th shloka in the chapter 6. This is an additional definition. This is not a different definition, but put in different ways. The wordings is different. At this point, I am going to have a small digression, not exactly digression, but very relevant digression on samadhi. The mind has 5 stages of existence. 5 stages. What are the 5 stages? I will tell you in Sanskrit, then I will translate. Kshipta, Moodha, Vikshipta, Ekagra and Niruddha. Kshipta Sthiti, the stage of Kshipta, scattered. The mind is engrossed in objects, influenced by likes and dislikes. Ordinarily, our ordinary state of mind, our mind is always like this. Kshipta, scattered. It is always thinking of objects. We have likes, we have dislikes, and the mind is always influenced by such likes and dislikes. This is one stage. There are 5 stages. Moodha stage, totally stupefied. Mind is overcome by drowsiness, caused by ignorance, tamas. That is the Moodha stage. Moodha Sthiti and Kshipta Sthiti. No samadhi can be expected in these 2 cases. In these 2 stages, there will be no question of samadhi. So we will leave that. Third is number 3, Vikshipta stage. Kshipta is scattered, I told you, scattered. Vikshipta is restless. It is also engrossed in objects, but occasionally engaged in dhyana. So Vikshipta. This is better than Kshipta. And then in this stage, that is the Vikshipta stage, restless stage, Samadhi may occur, casual Samadhi. What is Samadhi? Total absorption in the Absolute. Total absorption in the Absolute. That casually it may occur. But it is not conducive to yoga because of the predominance of rajas, restlessness. Vikshipta means a restless mood. It is engrossed in objects. Sometimes it goes into dhyana. It tries, attempts, but restless. So restlessness is indicative of rajas. That is not the basic thing for samadhi. So no casual samadhi may occur, but it will go. Just like it will die away like a lamp blown up by the wind. I mean the lamp goes, burning lamp. When the wind blows, it dies away. So that is what happens to the Vikshipta stage. So I have told you about 3 stages. Kshipta, Moodha, Vikshipta stage. 4th stage is Ekagra stage. You know the word Ekagra already. Tatra Ekagram Manakritva, we got it earlier. Tatra Ekagram Manakritva, one-pointed, capable of maintaining a continuous flow of mental modifications with regard to a single subject. Single object, Ekagra, the one-pointed. So this is the 4th stage of the mind. Certainly samadhi will occur in this stage because sattva is increasing. Sattva property, sattva quality is increasing and becomes pure. It is now able to concentrate on the self and the self only. Atmanyeva avatishtate yada viniyatam chittam atmanyeva avatishtate. It is the ekagra stage where the sattva is rising and becomes pure. This, when it is abiding in Atman and Atman alone, that is the modification of the mind called in Sanskrit Atmakara Vritti. Atmakara Vritti means the modification of the mind is in the self, towards the self, about the self, is in the self. This is the stage at which the samadhi occurs. That samadhi is called Samprajnata Samadhi. It's a very technical word used by Patanjali and being used by all yoga expositors. The mind has the vritti, modification of the meditated object. Mind is meditating on something. So the meditated object has overflown, covered the mind fully. It is called Dhyayakara Vritti. The mind has the modification of the meditated object. You are meditating about a God, Rama or Krishna. Now the mind is full of Krishna. The mind is full of Rama. That kind of thing. So that is called Dhyayakara Vritti. Dhyaya is the meditated object. Dhyayakara Vritti. This meditation, this kind of meditation is called Samprajnata Samadhi. This is the kind of meditation through which the nature of the object of meditation is known clearly. The nature of the object of meditation is known clearly in its totality, without doubt, devoid of doubt, devoid of misapprehension, devoid of uncertainty. So, Samprajnata Samadhi is called. What is that meaning? Samyak prajnayate. Samyake means very well, totally, devoid of all doubt and uncertainty. Samyake. Prajnayate, well understood. So now there is an understanding of the meditated object. Certain impressions, samskaras, arise in the mind from the insight of this samadhi, from the prajna of this samadhi. These impressions erase all other earlier local impressions, secular impressions, materialistic impressions, all of them are erased. It is in this state the yogi is called yuktaha. The word yuktaha has so much meaning. Yukta means integrated in yoga, in samprajnata samadhi. It is all the other impressions are erased. The impressions that arise from the insight obtained by the samadhi, that is the absorption in the absolute, that alone remains. Krishna means this when he says Yukta Asita Matparaha. I told you Yukta Asita Matparaha, which appears in the second chapter and again is repeated just now in the earlier shloka. That means he is in this kind of samadhi, that is totally the meditated object has fully covered, has filled up the mind. This is the fourth stage of the mind, ekagra. There is a fifth stage of the mind, niruddha, completely restrained. I will talk about it when we come to shloka number 20. So now, shloka number 18, yada viniyatam chittam atmanyevavatisthate nisprihah sarvakamebhyo yuktayachyate tada. Chittam viniyate, when the mind is totally controlled and abides in the Atman, and the yogi is completely rid of all desires for objects, that is the time he is called yuktaha. He is in samprajnata samadhi. Continue now. Number 19. Yata dipo nivatastho nengate sopamasprutam yogino yata chittasya yunjato yogam atmanah. Beautiful shloka. An analogy, a simile for the yogi which we have just now described, the samprajnata samadhi yogi. We have just described that the meditated object has covered, has fully pervaded the mind. Just now I said. So in that stage, what is his mind? How is his mind? It stands, without any movement, without any flickering, like a lamp kept in a windless place. What is the lamp? Flame of a burning candle or lamp. That is what deepa means. Yata deepaha nivatassa. A burning candle kept in a place where there is no wind. Nivatassaha deepa. Nengate, does not flicker, does not stir. This is the simile used for the mind of the yogin. The mind who has mental control, yatachittasya, who has mental control and who is practicing yoga, yunjataha yogam, right? For his mind, for that atmanaha, this is the upama sprita, sopama sprita. This simile, this analogy is mentioned. What is the analogy? The lamp, burning lamp, windless place, it's steady. Remember, this is a famous simile used by all teachers of yoga in explaining meditative mind. Flame of burning light there are two qualities. It is bright and unsteady. The flame of a burning light, like that, this is how our mind is. It has light and it is unsteady. So that is why it is akin to the mind. That is why this simile is used. The flame does not flicker when it is sheltered from the wind. Similarly, a disciplined mind is protected from all sides during meditation. That is why it does not flicker. So, meditation means ekagram manakritva. So, one-pointed, on one object, one thought continuously. So, it also is bright, remains uniformly luminous. That is why this simile is mentioned, famous simile. Yatha nipo nivatastha nipaha, windless place, burning light. Na ingate. It's a beautiful word. Ingate is an interesting word. Moves. Ingate means moves, shakes, or is agitated. Na ingate. That it is mentioned as an analogy for the mind of the yogi. Yoginaha atmanaha, yogam yunjataha, yatachittasya yoginaha, the one who has controlled the mind. Remember, just now he said, yada viniyate chittam. Look at the flow of thought of Krishna. These slokas, throughout the Gita, his thought flow is very continuous, and one sloka to other sloka, he continues the thought very effectively. No doubt about it. So here again, you can see that. Yada viniyatam chittam, previous sloka. When mind is controlled, so such a mind, so that mind, what does it mean? Atmanya yada viniyate chittam. It is controlled so that it does not go outside the Atman. Atmanyeva avatishtate. Right? So the yogin referred to here is the yoga of the previous sloka, samprajnata samadhi. Samyak prajnayate. It is samprajnata samadhi. So that is sloka number 19. Come to 20. You can see more and more important shlokas now. 18, 19, 20, 21. 20. Yatro paramate chittam niruddham yoga sevaya yatra chaivatmanatmanam pashyannatmani tushyati. Yatra uparamate chittam niruddham yoga sevaya. Niruddham, the word, I told you, there are 5 stages of the mind. What are the 5 stages? Chitta, scattered mind. Mudha, stupefied mind. Vichipta chittam, restless mind. Ekagra chittam, one-pointed mind. Now comes the niruddha mind, the restrained mind, completely restrained. So, yatra uparamate chittam niruddham yoga sevaya. Yoga sevaya, by the practice of yoga. Niruddham, well, constrained, restrained. What is restrained? Chittam. The mind itself is restrained now. So, because of that restraint, the mind stops thinking about other things. Atmanyeva avatishtate. So, what does it do? Yatra chaiva, when, yatra means when or where. He is going to complete this thought process in the later shlokas. Yatra chaiva atmana atmanam pashyanne atmani tushyati. Be careful. Atmana atmanam pashyanne. By his own self, he is seeing the self. What does it mean? By the mind which is controlled, atmana, atmanam pashyan. He is seeing the self. It is only a figurative way of saying. He is not seeing the self, is not standing there. He sees, no, not that. Atmanam pashyan means it is not like what you see in the movies. Suddenly the so-called consciousness, the conscious person, another figure comes there and it talks to the, so conscience talks to him. So they show it in the movies. It is not like that. Atmanam pashyan. So when the mind itself reaches the niruddha stage, niruddha is the 5th stage. Niruddha stage, that is, all modifications or restrain. Vritti, modification is vritti. The mind is not going anywhere. Not only that, the Samprajñāta Samadhi has raised certain impressions in the mind. So the mind was enjoying or doing something with that understanding of the self. That those modifications are also erased. So all the samskaras, including that of the Samprajñāta Samadhi, that is erased. Therefore this is called Asamprajñāta Samadhi. That is, in the other case there was the meditated object and the meditator. The meditated object was overcoming, was fulfilling, pervading the mind. So there is a mind, there is a meditated object. Now those two things have merged in some sense. Niruddham chittam uparamate. Look at the shloka. Yatro paramate chittam niruddham yoga sevaya niruddham chittam uparamate. Niruddha, restrained, chitta, mind, uparamate, stops. It is not thinking anymore of even the self. It is only the self now. Yatra uparamate chitram yatra chaiva atmanam atmanam pashyanne. So atmana means by the mind. What mind? Samadhi parishuddhena atmana. This samadhi, this has purified it. What samadhi? The Samprajñāta Samadhi has purified it, so that it has accepted the restraint and it is not even thinking of the self. It is the self. Samadhi parishuddhena antakaranena atmanam pashyanne. What do you mean by atmanam pashyan? Seeing the self. What is the meaning of seeing the self? Param chaitanyam jyotiswarupam pashyanne. This is Shankara's words. The absolute light, the supreme light, supreme spirit, all pervasive light, beholding that supreme spirit. Atmani tushyanti. He rejoices in the self. Remember, rejoices in the self. We have seen this word very often earlier in the Gita. We may not have understood it fully. Nitya triptaha. Nitya tripto nirashtrayaha. We have seen always satisfied. What is he always satisfied with? Atmanam pashyanne. That is, here comes the explanation of Nitya triptaha. Yontas sukhantara rama tadham tadjyotirevayam. 4th chapter. Antas sukha antararama antarjyotihi. He is joyful. He is happy because of the inner light. Antasukha antararama. So Atmanyeva atmana tushtaha sthita prajnasthalochyate. 2nd chapter. Atmaniyeva atmana tushtaha. By in the self, by himself, by the mind, in the self, he is satisfied. It is a kind of an intriguing word, but here it is explained. Yatra kaiva atmana atmanam pashyanne. By the mind, what kind of mind? By the mind which is purified by the Samprajñāta Samadhi, the earlier Samadhi, that he is purified, he is now seeing the self. He is not seeing the self, he has become the self. Pashyan is only a way of saying it. Right? Yes, in the 3rd chapter we had a very interesting shloka, famous shloka. Yastvat marati revasya atmasraptasya manavaham atmanyevata santushtaha tasya karyam na vidyate. Yastva atmaratihi atmasantushtihi atmadhriptihi. He is having delight in the Atman. He is having pleasure in the Atman. He is satisfied with the Atman. We have said all those 3 things there, and the explanation, the interpretation, the elaboration comes here in these 4 shlokas, particularly in this shloka. Yatra kaiva atmanam pashyan. By the mind, he is seeing the self. Now, seeing is only with quotes. He is becoming the self. Atmani tushyati. Therefore, he is satisfied with the self. So there is a kind of happiness, sukha here. What kind of sukha? This sukha is called, this happiness is called Atyantikam Sukham, infinite bliss, in the next sloka. So I want to go to the next sloka, 21. Sukhamatyantikam yattate buddhigrahyamati indriyam vetti yatranajevayam sthitaschalati tattvataha. Sukham. This is a very famous, very important sloka. Certainly it is a 5-star sloka, but among the 5-star slokas, this perhaps tops the list, or at least among the top, highest order. Sukham atyantikam yattate. Sukham atyantikam yate tate buddhigrahyam atindriyam vetti yatra na chaivayam sthitaschalati tattvataha. Vetti yatra na cha eva ayam sthitaha chalati tattvataha. Atyantikam sukham means infinite bliss, bliss of the highest order, everlasting bliss. Atyantikam, there is no end to it. It is not possible to describe this orally. It is a supersensuous joy. It arises in the mind. What mind? Which is totally freed from all defects, because it has reached the samadhi stage. So we are talking of that kind of infinite bliss, that end bliss. The self is now absorbed in the mind is now absorbed in the self. Maitreya Upanishad explains it. Swayam tad antargrahanena drishyate. The inner reason by itself, that buddhigrahyam is the word in the shloka. It is understood by the intellect, not by the ordinary intellect which understands mathematics, physics or the world. No. That is the ordinary intellect. This is a subtle intellect, because though that intellect, that reason depends upon sense data, it frames concepts on that basis. So this grahya, buddhigrahyam, to be understood by the intellect does not mean in that sense. This awareness, this grahya is awareness or understanding, not indirectly. The nature of understanding a subtle point in mathematics or physics, that is not the understanding here. Here the understanding is by identity. Be careful. We are at the highest stage of Advaita excellence. Buddhigrahyam atindriyam. Atindriyam, it is transcending all senses. So you cannot understand it by any of your senses or the ordinary intellect. Then how do you understand it? By identity. What do you mean by identity? Becoming one with the Absolute. In fact, in Vedanta, all true knowledge is by identity. Is knowledge by identity. Our knowledge through physical contact or mental symbols or through instrumentation is indirect. It is approximate. We wake up from dream into wakefulness. We have been dreaming, we suddenly wake up. What wakes us up? The intellect? No. Because the intellect was already sleeping. So that was not awake. So the light within wakes us up. When the yogi is anchored in the essence of the self, He does not swerve from the truth. So the buddhigrashyam means the buddhigrashyam. When we are in deep sleep, is buddhi alive? Is the buddhi active? Is the intellect active? No. So the buddhigrashyam, the happiness of deep sleep is not there. It is not understood by buddhi. The intellect itself loses itself in deep sleep. So this grashyam, this understanding by the intellect is by a subtle intellect. Three adjectives are used here for this sukham. Sukham atyantikam yattate buddhigrashyam atindriyam. Atyantikam sukham. Buddhigrashyam sukham. Atindriyam sukham. Atyantikam infinite. Buddhigrashyam understood by a reasoning, subtle reason, not the ordinary reason. And atindriyam, beyond the senses. Three adjectives. Later, in the 18th chapter, there are three types of sukha are being described by sattvika happiness, rajasa happiness, and tamasa happiness are described there. Here, this happiness that we are talking about, sukham atyantikam yattate buddhigrashyam atindriyam, whoever understands it, vekti, nata evam sthitas chalati tattvataha. He never swerves from the truth. That is the second part. But the first part we have to understand. It is super sensuous, atindriyam. Therefore it is superior to the rajasika form of joy derived from the senses. It is eternal, atyantikam, ever unchangeable. Therefore it is superior even to the sattvika type of happiness. So the joy referred to in this shloka is consciousness itself. It transcends Maya. The sky is reflected in an unsoiled clean mirror. So also this joy is reflected in a steadied intellect. Steadied intellect, not the ordinary intellect. The intellect has been studied by various yoga seva, by practice of yoga. So that buddhi takes this. But wait, there is a rider. Even this joy is not to be enjoyed. Who says? Gaudapada. In Mandukya Karika, 3rd chapter, 44th shloka, he says, even this enjoyment of happiness is prohibited. Naswadayet sukham tatra nisanga prajnaya bhavet. Naswadayet, don't enjoy this. The mind should not be allowed to enjoy the bliss that arises out of the condition of samadhi. Because once it starts enjoying it, then there is a duality, mind and that whatever is being enjoyed. So it should be freed from attachment to such happiness through the exercise of discrimination, buddhi. In fact, this is the warning to all yogis. In the state of samadhi, the yoga, the ultimate destination of the yogic practices is samadhi. But in samadhi, the yogi fails to see that the non-dual Brahman alone exists. In the samadhi, he sees either a light or a joy or something. So there is a duality still. The non-dual Brahman alone exists. I am the non-dual Brahman. That has not yet arrived. That is why the Vedantic Samadhi is different. Vedantic Yoga, this is where it differs from the yoga regimen. The yogi, the ordinary yogi, seeks Samadhi because he believes in the existence of the mind as separate from Atman. Therefore he tries to control it. He brings the mind to a state of inactivity. He makes himself free from all worries. But this is not the Vedantic goal of truth. The mind is identical with Atman. The mind is the self. I am the self. It is hidden. It does not appear as the self of all beings, but seers of subtle things, they see it through a pointed intellect. Esha sarveshu bhuteshu gudotmana prakashate drishyate tvagraya vidya sukshmadarshini agraya buddhya. Kathopanishad says this. Sukshmaya buddhya. Subtle intellect sees this. They are the Sukshmadarshis. It does not appear for all others. Naiva vacha na manasa praptum shakyo na tatrusham asti iti bruvatavam yatra katham tadupalabhyate. It cannot be obtained by speech. It cannot be seen through mind. It cannot be seen through the eyes. Naiva vacha, naiva manasa, na tatrusha. Again Kathopanishad. How can it be known to anyone apart from the one who speaks of it as existing? Asti iti bravato anyatra. It exists, that conviction is there. Sarvam kalvidam brahma, that conviction. Only that people, such people, outside of them, others, katham tadupalabhyate. How can it be attained by others who are not aware of its existence, who are not convinced of its existence? The conviction should be there. Conviction. Conviction is not understanding. When I was a little boy, my father used to say, the discussion was about getting up early in the morning, 5 o'clock. I used to complain that it's very difficult to get up at 5 in the morning. But my father would argue and say and convince me that getting up at 5 o'clock is good. Are you convinced about it? Yes, I am convinced that getting up at 5 o'clock is good, but I am not able to get up. Then my father would say, then you are not convinced. If you are convinced, if you have the conviction, then you should abide by it. Otherwise it is not conviction. It is only an intellectual conviction. The emotional conviction which should be there. The conviction should come from within. So like that, this conviction, it exists. Asti iti bravato nyatra katham tadupalabhyate Kathopanishad. Yada panchavatiष्ठन्ते ज्ञानानि मनसा सहं बुद्धिश्च न विचेष्टेते तमाहुः परमां गतिम्. The 5 senses of knowledge, pancha jnanani, they must come to rest along with the mind. Manasa saha. The intellect should not function. Buddhishcha na vicheshtete, the ordinary intellect. The subtle intellect will become one with the self. That is the highest stage, Paramam Gatim. Of course, the famous crisp saying about this is in Brihadaranyaka. How do I know the knower? The knower, K-N-O-W-E-R, with a capital K. K-N-O-W-E-R, knower, he is the self. How do you know the knower? Through what should one know that owing to which all this is known? Through what should one know? Yena idam sarvam vijaniya. Yena idam sarvam vijaniya. By what instrument? Instrument is not the word. By what does one know everything? How do you know that? Tam kena vijaniya. Through what should one know that owing to which all this is known? Through what, O Maitreyi? Vigyamataram are kena vijaniya. Vigyamataram, how do I know the knower? Vigyamataram are kena vijaniya. So that you see, It's a beautiful shloka, very profound meaning. Sukhamatyantikam yattate buddhigrasyamati indriyam vetti yatra chaivayam stitaschalati tattvataha. Vetti yatra chaivayam. Such a person, stitaschalati tattvataha, having abided in truth, he does not swallow from it now. Because that atyantikam sukham he has seen. Now Krishna comes down and talks in our language. Yam labdhvacha param labham, Sloka 22. Yam labdhvacha param labham manyate nalikam tataham. I have told you very often that Krishna talks very casually, in a way we can understand with simple words. But now and then the thought process rises to the peak where you and I have to struggle to understand him, to be one with him. But again, after a few slokas he comes down and talks in our level. Yam labdhvacha param labham manyate ramadikam tataham. There is no more gain than this. By obtaining which one thinks there is no greater gain beyond it. Yam labdhva, having obtained which, aparam labham manyate na adhikam tataha, there is no greater gain. Adhikam labham na, aparam adhikam labham na manyate, there is no greater gain than this. Yam labdhva, yasmin sthitena dukkhena, by anchoring oneself in that, yasmin sthitena dukkena gurunapi, guruna dukkena na chalyate, na vichalyate, even by great grief, guruna dukkena. Guru means heavy. Heavy grief and happiness, one is not affected, one is not shattered. I have seen this in my father's case. Gurunapi dukkena na vichalyate. Because Yam madhvaja param labha. He never thought any other labha is great. That is why in my standard prayer, my prayers or at the beginning of every speech, I have added a prayer to him. Atma labhat param labham vaktaram na kadachana. He never thought of, he never spoke of any labha other than Atma labha. Yam labdhvaja param labham. Right? In fact, even in the Abhasambha Sutra, long ago, this is spoken of very highly, this labha, this gain of the absolute self. Kritam krityam praptam prapaniyam iti atmalabhan na param vidyate. There is nothing greater than atmalabha. Atmalabha means the self. One has reached the self. One has realized the absolute self. Kritam krityam, whatever acquired, whatever to be acquired. Whatever acquired has been acquired. Whatever to be acquired has been acquired. Whatever to be accomplished has been accomplished. Kritam krityam praptam prapaniyam. Prapaniyam, that to be acquired. Praptam, that has been acquired. Krityam, what to be accomplished, that has been accomplished. Kritam krityam praptam prapaniyam atmalabhan naparam vidyate. Even in the Abhasambha Sutra it is said, so yam labdhvaja aparam labham manyate nalikam tataha yasmin sthito anathatvena. Having anchored oneself in this, yam labdhva yasmin sthitena guruna dukkhena api na vichalyate. Even by the greatest grief, one does not get affected, one does not shatter. Tam vidya, that, know that as yoga. So now comes the definition of the Vedantic yoga. Tam vidya dukkha samyoga viyogam yoga samgitam sanishchayena yoktavyo yogo nirvinna tejasam. That should be practiced. Nishchayena yoktavyaha. Yoga anirvinna chetasa. No dejected mind, anirvinna, undejected mind, non-despondent heart, undismayed heart. Anirvinna chetasa yoga yoktavyaha. That yoga has to be practiced, done, without slackness of effort. You see, as you go on doing it, you feel diffident. What is all this? It's no problem. We leave it. No, that kind of slackness no good. Without slackness of effort arising from the thought of prospective pain, because it is too difficult, you must say. So, anirvinna chetasa yoktavya dukkha samyoga viyogam. Beautiful word. Dukkha samyoga viyogam. Dukkha is pain. Samyoga is union, contact. Viyogam means disjunction. Disjunction of the contact with pain. Dukkha samyoga viyogam. That is called yoga. This yoga, that one, that is what. Tam vidya dukkha samyoga viyogam yoga samjitam sanishchayena yoktavyaha yogo nirvinna chetasa. Having glorified the results of yoga, now again he summarizes in 4 or 5 shlokas the process of yoga once again, but now in more precise terms. We will see that in the next session. Swasti prajabhya paripalayantam nyayena marjena majim mahisha go brahmanebhya shubhamastu nityam lokas samasta sukino bhavantu. Om Tat Sat.